This is Fans on the Run, a podcast made by, for, and about Beatles fans. And now, here's your host, Ethan Alexanian.
All right, everyone, welcome back to the show, Fans on the Run. I'm Ethan Alexanian. You just heard that in the intro. Don't know why I felt the need to repeat it, but, you know, it's been a while since I've recorded an episode. It's been a couple weeks, I think. Not really sure. You wouldn't have seen any disruption in the episodes because, you know, I recorded almost half of the last 6 interviews I did in the span of 1 week in May because I'm not good at preparing for things. And so I decided, you know, it's okay. You can do that. Pro tip, you cannot. All right, anyways, enough about my delusional ramblings. We have a great episode for you today because we actually have a guest today who's from Liverpool. Our first one. First of many, I hope. Since 1995, she's been one of, if not Liverpool's top Beatles guides, as well as one of the only certified ones. She's been recognized by the Institute of Tourist Guiding, TripAdvisor, and Ethan Alexanian. She's a Blue Badge guide. While I wasn't quite sure what that meant, I googled it, and goddamn, it's a big deal to be a Blue Badge guide. She's worked with MTV, VH1, helped out some fellow Canadians by the name of Cirque du Soleil in research for the Beatles' Love Show in Las Vegas. You can regularly hear her on the Beatles Sirius XM channel, or you can hear her right here. Jackie Spencer, welcome to the show.
Hello, Ethan. Lovely to meet you.
I actually got through that introduction without butchering any of the words.
That was pretty good, and it was all true as well.
I'd hope so. I got most of it from your website. This is probably a bit of a step down from Carpool Karaoke, since I know you were kind of featured on it, although it may be a bit of a step up depending on your opinions of James Corden.
I wasn't featured on it, but what happened, I was on a tour that day. I had 3 tours that one day. In fact, it's the 9th of June, so it's 2 years ago. 2018, so the date's not that it's engraved in my brain, but I was finishing the first of 3 tours, and it was a private car tour, and the last stop on the tour was to finish by the statues at Liverpool's Pier Head, which is a real iconic venue, and we were just about to say goodbye, and there was a bit of a fuss, and a black car pulled out, and out got Paul McCartney and James Corden. So it was rather bizarre.
Wasn't one of your tweets featured on the show, though?
Oh, my tweet was on the show, yeah. And then I did an awful lot of interviews later on for radio and television and things. So there was a very excited me in all the interviews going, I've just seen Paul McCartney. It was mad.
Was that the first time a Beatle had actually shown up, kind of, almost on one of your tours?
No, do you know what? It isn't. So we tend to know in advance when Paul's in town. And so if we know that he's around, because he's the figurehead for a school in Liverpool that's known as LIPA, the Liverpool Institute for Performing Art, and he comes there for graduation ceremonies and takes master classes sometimes. So we tend to know where he is, and we have a rough idea of the timetable, so we can work a tour around it. This is the first time that it's just been completely spontaneous, and he's actually got out of his car, walked over and stood next to his statue that he'd never actually seen before. And so this is why it was such a one-off. I've seen him, you know, several times on tours before, and it's always been a bonus, and I've said to people, we might get to see Paul McCartney today, but this time he got out the car. The 4 people on the tour who were from Washington State in California, they were looking at me saying, thank you, Jackie. And I'm looking at them thinking, is it really him? And yeah, he walked over, he just hung out, got a few photographs, went back in his car again, and went off to do the rest of Carpool Karaoke. And when you see the show, that's out of sequence. That was the very first time he showed his face, the first time we knew he was in Liverpool.
Really?
And so I was the one who broke the news, yeah. So after that, when you see him at Penny Lane, that was all after the bit at the Pier Head. So I was the first one that is part of the Beatles industry, I suppose, to actually see him. So I broke the news to everyone. He'll probably hate me for it because everywhere we went then there were big crowds, but this time it was completely spontaneous. Nobody knew he was there.
That would have been just kind of like the thrill of a lifetime, giving a Beatles tour, and then you just look out of like your peripheral I just butchered that word. There we go. There's the first word.
I can't say that either.
Really?
Well, I probably can, but I'm not going to try on your podcast. Peripheral, there you go.
Peripheral, there we go.
Yeah.
We did it together.
Maybe it sounds better in the Liverpool accent. Maybe it's easier to say.
Maybe. Or maybe I'm just not good at speaking.
I haven't spoken properly. You know, my job is to speak. My job is to stand at the front of a coach and talk to people or sit and chat to people about the Beatles. But because I haven't had a chance to do that for the last couple of months, then I'm seriously losing the art of speech.
Don't feel too bad. Basically, as soon as the lockdown began, I forgot how to interact with people.
Well, talking about forgetting how to do things, when Paul did turn up on our when he kind of photobombed my tour, my brain went to mush. I couldn't work my phone, so I could have got a selfie with him and all sorts, but I couldn't remember how my phone worked. I managed to get 1 or 2 pictures just by blindly pressing the button on the screen, but as to anything else, my brain just was mush.
Oh, wow. Now I wish I had seen Paul McCartney when I was in Liverpool.
So does everyone. Yeah. Get in the queue.
Although, to be fair, I wish I'd actually taken a proper tour. We were kind of, confused jet-lag tourists outside the Beatles Story Museum. And
oh, nice.
It was pouring, and we didn't know where we were, and we were trying to find the Magical Mystery Tour coach tour thing.
I get you, yeah.
And we had no idea where we were going, and all of a sudden this cab just pulled up, just random black cab, and we're like, fuck, do you know anyone who does Beatles tours? And he just turned off his lights.
Every cab driver will do that in Liverpool.
If only I had known, because I would have taken one of your tours, because you actually know what you're doing.
Yeah, when people get into the arrive in the station or something, they get in a cab, and as soon as the taxi drivers hear an accent, they're like, oh, you want a Beatles tour? I'm a Beatles tour guide. I'm like, no, you're not. If you just want to go to Penny Lane and Strawberry Fields, fair enough. But if you come into Liverpool and this is the trip of a lifetime, you've wanted to do this since you were young. I mean, in your case, you're still only young, but we've got people who saw them on the Ed Sullivan Show, and Liverpool is their dream. Do it properly. Just research it. Go with a bona fide tour guide who knows what they're talking about. I'm not just pushing myself here.
Yeah. Oh, you can push yourself all you want.
I'm not like that,
Oh no, I know. It's just I'd like to provide that venue for that to happen.
We're very, very British. You know what we're like here. We don't. We're a bit reticent to putting ourselves forward. But I think my track record speaks for itself.
Yeah.
I hope.
I have a question about your tours that you do in Liverpool. Do you have a particular favorite Beatle place to take people to in Liverpool, or one that you think gets the best emotional reception?
Do you know, I was asked this on local radio just this week, and it's hard for me to choose.
Damn it, I thought that was a good question.
It's a great question, but I'll tell you why it's hard to choose is because after 25 years of doing this, I have really nice relationships with the people at all of the venues, and so if I chose one, the others would be go, what about me? So it's difficult, but I will tell you the answer I gave on that show. I'll tell you 3 places that I really have enjoyed going to over the years. One of them is St. Peter's Church, and this is in Woolton Village. That's the place where John and Paul first met in July of 1957. It's where you'll find the grave of a lady named Eleanor Rigby. So that's really nice. It's a lovely little village in Liverpool, and it's got a great story. Another place is Strawberry Fields. Now, this is relatively new. We've been going to the gates of Strawberry Fields for years and years, but just last year, the gates opened up, and they now have a beautiful visitor centre there. So by going, not only are you're experiencing this iconic place, you're also helping the charity as well. So Strawberry Field is another one, and the other place is Penny Lane. So of course Penny Lane and Strawberry Field, they're both a must, aren't they?
Oh yeah.
And at Penny Lane, we stop and take a picture at the sign, as Paul McCartney did, and visit the Development Trust, the community centre there. But there's so much to choose from. There's museums in the city. There's 2 great museums in the city centre now, the Liverpool Beatles Museum and the Beatles Story.
One of which is owned by Rogue Best, right?
That's right, yeah, Rogue, yeah. Rogue and the Casbah, so that's another great venue. So the Casbah, where Rogue grew up, and in the cellar is the bar where the Beatles used to play. That's a great venue as well. So honestly, it's so hard to choose, and I apologise now if anybody's listening to this and I've left you out.
It doesn't matter about them, it's just about us too.
Just about us. Okay, nobody will listen, will they?
Don't worry, I think all 2 of my listeners won't mind.
No, I'll be sharing this. 2 of mine might as well.
That makes 4. We're moving up in the world. Now, I'm gonna quit asking about Liverpool because I want to hear about you. When did you first discover the Beatles?
I've never not known the Beatles, and so I'm giving my age away now. I was born in Liverpool, in the same hospital as Paul McCartney, in 1961. So my mum and dad, when they got married, they got married in a local church, which has been part of our family for years. It's called the Blessed Sacrament. And that evening they went to the village, the little club that's attached to the church, and they had a drink. I found out years later that the Beatles were actually playing there that day. It was their debut at the Aintree Institute.
Really?
And so I said, really? So I said to Mum and Dad, I said, you know what, at your wedding ceremony, did you have a party after? They went, so we just went for a drink in the Aintree Institute. I said, was there a band on? And Mum was like, oh, I think so. And Dad said, oh yeah, there was a band. I went upstairs and had a little look at them. He said, you know what, Jack, come to think of it, it was the Beatles. I was like, Dad, I know. Why didn't you tell me this? And so the Beatles were playing in Liverpool, around the time I was born. And Mum and Dad knew of the Beatles. Dad had seen them at all-nighters. And so I've never not known the Beatles. So as a little girl, when you wheeled out to sing favourite songs, I'd be, little 2-year-old, 3-year-old singing I Want to Hold Your Hand. And so it's kind of in our blood. It's like the River Mersey in Liverpool is the lifeblood of our city. The Beatles run through our veins, I think.
Do you have any, the first, memory that you have? A distinct memory? Do you have any?
Of the Beatles. So my next door neighbour, Lorraine, if she's listening, she had one of these lovely little little record players that you lifted up, and in the she had 2 Beatles singles. I think it was called Buy Me Love and All My Loving, but I could be wrong there. She also had one called 3 Little Kittens that was orange. We used to like to play, but we played those records over and over, and probably if these records came out in the early 60s, we were probably only about 4 years old, and we played these Beatles records. Then another memory is of the Beatles wigs that Mum bought for us, solid plastic, like a cycle helmet.
I've seen pictures of those.
Yeah, I remember wearing them. I think my brother had a Beatles suit as well. And then my auntie, she brought home this album when I'm 7 years old or 6 years old. I'm learning to read at school and I'm getting pretty good at it. And this album was amazing. So it was all brightly coloured. It had all these cutouts. I'd never seen this before. You opened it up, and on the back as well, it had all the words to the songs, and the songs were great. Songs like Will You Still Need Me? Will You Still Feed Me When I'm 64? So of course this album was Sgt. Pepper.
It's a shame no one remembers that album and it's fallen into obscurity.
I don't know what happened to it, to be honest. I don't know. I'm sure, there might be 1 or 2 copies around from the 60s.
And I own both of them.
Yeah, it was a pretty good album and tops the charts a lot. And if I had to choose, you're probably going to ask me what's my favourite, aren't you? My favourite album is Sgt. Pepper.
I was maybe going to ask that question at some point.
Well, you can ask it again later. I'll say a different answer.
You're the
do
perfect
change.
guest.
Go on, what else have you got to ask me?
I was going to ask, what was your first Beatles album or Beatles record?
Not necessarily my first. You know, it was my Auntie Betty. She was only a teenager when I was born. And so I probably destroyed that album on her. And I've said it a few times, but sorry, Auntie Betty. Because I liked all the cutouts and the stickers and things that went with it. I do have a brand new copy of my own now. So I cut out my own stickers. I should really give it to her, shouldn't I?
How did you first become a Beatles tour guide? Was there really a tour guide industry when you first started?
There was, but not to the extent it is now. So for many years, from when I left school, I mean, I wasn't into school. I just wanted to leave and get a job straight away. I didn't want to go to university or anything. And so I got a job as a travel agent. And for many, many years, that's the job I did. But I realised I was sending everyone away from Liverpool. And I saw an advert in the local newspaper advertising a course for tour guides. And it asked you if you love your city, if you like to meet people. And I just went for it. And best decision I've ever made. And I became a tour guide. It was just a hobby. It was a part-time thing. From being a Liverpool guide, they asked me to work on the Magical Mystery Tour bus, and I learned a lot more about the Beatles. I was already a fan, but you know, I kind of honed in on the knowledge, and I became a tour guide on the Magical Mystery Tour, and just took it from there, really. So it's, you know, my love of Liverpool's been there forever. As an office girl, you know, age 17, I'd be delivering tickets all around the city and just looking up at the fantastic buildings. So I can tell you a lot about Liverpool itself, but the Beatles are the icing on the cake, aren't they?
What is, this is going to be the dumbest question ever. What's your favourite thing about Liverpool?
Okay, no, it's not dumb, and it's actually quite an easy. If you were to Google this yourself, one of the top things that comes out when you ask about Liverpool, the best thing about Liverpool are its people. Honestly, we're a really warm, funny, sympathetic, empathetic. We're just lovely people. Well, everybody else is. I say I don't big myself up, but no, the Liverpool people are so welcoming, so warm, and so lovely. So that's my top answer.
That's one of my distinct memories of Liverpool.
Really?
You know,
oh, I'm glad.
We took the train up from London, where, you know, it's London. People are, you know.
It's a big city, isn't it? It's a cosmopolitan city where everyone's too busy to give you time.
But when we got to Liverpool, everyone was so nice, and it kind of caught me off guard a little.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
you're a bit scared. I think that they've been talking lately about this virus thing, and one of the local
what virus?
Oh, you know that one we don't talk about so much.
Oh, that one.
One of the local comedians, it said it spread if you talk too much, you know, if you talk to people. And so he said, oh, they'd be fine down in London. Up in Liverpool, we've got nothing down for us, though. But everybody talks to everybody on the bus, on the train. I do this tour that I really enjoy. There's so much choice of tours. You know, the sky's the limit, really. But I do this great tour that I really enjoy. When you jump on the same buses that the Beatles did and go out to their villages and then walk around, every time we get on the bus, somebody wants to tell us their story. Oh, I went to school with John Lennon, or, you know, that kind of thing. And the people with me, it's like an extra bit of entertainment on the tour, because everyone on the bus hears an accent and starts chatting to them. Here's a Canadian accent or something. It's great.
That is my other distinct memory of Liverpool. Anyone you asked, there was like a degree or two of separation. Like, oh, my dad went to school with John Lennon. It's
yeah. And you know what? A lot of the time it's true as well.
Yeah.
Not always, but a lot of the time.
Yeah. God, I want to go back.
Oh, come on. It's raining today as well, though, so, you know, don't rely on the weather. We don't care about the weather.
Well, it's not like we have the best weather here in Canada either, so we're not picky.
Good. Oh yeah, we'll make sure you come back. We need everyone to come back.
I really want to come back. And I'll take one of your tours this time, not just some random cabbie.
I think you should. We could do some other podcasts live, couldn't we? From Liverpool.
We could though, couldn't we?
We could.
Yeah. What, as someone from Liverpool, what do the Beatles mean to you?
Oh, good question. What do they mean to me? They're icons, but they're also ordinary Liverpool lads in some ways, on some levels, and so it means that they're inspirational. They show you that you can come from a working class background with not much financial support. You can work hard, you can be dedicated at what you do, and you can do quite well out of it. Maybe not as well as the Beatles did, but it just shows you don't have to be born with a silver spoon in your mouth to make something of yourselves. What else do they mean to me? They mean comfort. When you're down, you listen to Beatles songs, they help. When you're up, you listen to Beatles songs and you get higher. Oh gosh, I'm waffling away here. They mean so many things. I don't know. They mean a livelihood to me. They mean I've made a job out of doing something I absolutely love, showing off my home city and showing off the bands that came from here.
There are much worse things to do for a living.
Oh, absolutely.
Than to
I've done them.
We could save that for my other podcast.
Oh dear.
But I want to touch on a point that you kind of brought up, that the Beatles didn't really come from, an upper middle class background. Like, the closest was maybe John or Paul, but seeing the places where, especially Ringo and, what's it called, Dingle?
In the Dingle, yeah.
Yeah, where he grew up. And when I was there in 2013, I don't know if the house is still there, but it was at risk of being demolished.
Oh gosh, no, there's movement there. There's been some changes. The Dingle area where the house where Ringo was born, has now been completely renovated. The whole streets have, and they're actually looking quite good at the moment. So you definitely need to come back and see these changes.
I feel like I've missed so much, because like those statues on, is it Pier Head?
Pier Head, yeah.
They weren't there when I was there, and I remember seeing them being unveiled on YouTube. I'm like, oh, yeah. Those statues are so cool.
Yeah, they're fabulous. They were unveiled in December 2015, because they represented the last time the Beatles played Liverpool 50 years on. And so you must have been here before 2015.
I was there in 2013.
Right, well, this was December 15, so yeah, you missed them. They are iconic. They're fantastic. Yeah, they're just like the little cherry on top of the icing on the cake. I've just made that phrase up. Never used it before in my life.
We'll see if it sticks. We're all for trying new things here at Fans on the Run.
Brilliant.
I say we as if it isn't just me.
Well, you're in control. You know what you're doing, I think.
Oh, you flatter me. I don't.
I'm pleased that you can understand everything I'm saying, actually.
And the best thing about that is, even if I don't, I can just pretend I do.
You just laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I think I have a pretty good understanding of the Scouse accent.
Oh, good.
Or at
Mine's
least
quite gentle. People don't think so if they're from abroad, but in the middle of Liverpool, I have quite a gentle Liverpool accent.
Yeah.
I think because I have to knock the edges off it so that people can understand me on tours. But if you heard me speak in a proper Liverpool accent like I would to my family, then you might not understand a word I say.
I'm going to give you a challenge. Try and speak Scouse in a way that I wouldn't understand.
Oh gosh. I can never think. I can never think of a phrase to say.
I saw a video of you with Billy J. Kramer, and you got very
did you see
close.
Yeah, that was funny. I don't think Billy J. Kramer understood me. It's been a while since he's lived in Liverpool. I'm just trying to think of a Beatles lyric I could say. Give us a Beatles song and I'll say it in Scouse. I can't think of one.
I'm trying to think of
How about Yellow Submarine? Okay, so I'll say the first few lines of Yellow Submarine, but I'll say it in a strong accent. Okay.
Okay.
So in the town where I was born lived a man who went to sea, and he told me of his life in the lands of submarines. Is that right?
I got all of that, and it's not even just because I already knew the lyrics.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I need to sing something more obscure, but never mind.
How about some Pet Shop Boys lyrics?
Some Pet Shop Boys. Okay, I can do that. Let me think. What have I done to deserve this? How was that?
I actually got it.
You're good then. You're good, and you've been in Liverpool, so maybe you can understand us a little bit better. Because
However,
you know the psyche of the people.
However, we were asking for directions at one point, and I think we had gone to the bank to, pull some money out or something, and we were asking the teller for directions, and it was just this kind of long mumbling. I don't know.
Did they point a lot though? Because we use our hands a lot too.
Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, fuck! I just embarrassed myself. The thing is,
you swore on your pod.
Oh, I do it all the time.
That's okay then.
No one takes the show seriously, let alone me.
Nobody can do a Liverpool accent properly if they're not a native Liverpudlian, no matter how much they try. And sometimes people will do it to me and say something in Liverpool, and I'll feel guilty and smile and say that was great when it never is. Nobody can do it.
On good days, I feel like I can kind of do it, because...
I bet you can't really, and I'm just going to... Whatever you do, I'm going to smile politely and say, yeah, that was great.
Trust me, I'm not going to do it.
Good.
That's why I gave up so quickly when I tried it. Because I know this will only end badly for myself.
I love Beatles tribute bands and things, but when they stand up and they try to introduce the songs in a Liverpool accent, that's when I'm like, oh, no.
Well, because a lot of them, it isn't really a Liverpool accent. It's this, It's like you watch A Hard Day's Night or Help once, and it's kind of what you remember them sounding like. That's
exactly it, yeah.
Or really better yet, it's someone trying to do the imitations of the Beatles from Yellow Submarine.
Yeah, true. Oh.
Yeah. I love making fun of tourists, even though I am one.
I don't. I love every single tourist because they keep me with the roof over my head. So I'm not making fun of them. I love them all.
I can make fun of them for you.
Love you all. If anyone's listening, I love you.
I think I actually had someone who was on one of your tours a week or two ago. A guy by the name of John Montagna.
Oh gosh, yeah, I know John.
He was talking about being at the St. Peter's Church.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember John.
And someone actually let him inside.
Yeah, that would have been me.
And then there's this kind of groundskeeper who is what's the right word?
Graham?
It could be. But he was kind of grumpy or something, and he's like, they're not actually still here, are they?
John did not say that. John said this.
Finally, Jackie goes, do you mind if he just has a look inside? He's flown all the way from New York, and we're on the Beatles tour, and the guy shoots me this look. He goes, there's nothing to see in there.
That doesn't sound like Graham. He's not grumpy. I'm sure it was.
Apologies to Graham, wherever you are.
No, that actually wouldn't be Graham. It must have been just somebody... it must have just been somebody who had the keys, because Graham is the least grumpy person ever. He's absolutely lovely. But I do remember John Montagna because he did the tour with me, and I'm still friends with him on Facebook.
Of course, I could be butchering the story because I have the memory of a goldfish.
Yeah. No, it's... the St. Peter's Church Hall's a really iconic place. That's one of the places I mentioned, wasn't it? That's really cool.
I wish I had actually, I wish the cab driver had actually stopped the car. We just kind of drove past it, but I thought it would have been cool to actually, go on the ground.
There's your lesson.
There is my lesson. There's a lesson in everything.
Yeah. Sometimes we can get to go inside, not always, but occasionally we can go inside the church hall.
Silver lining. No for next time.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh my god, I almost just started quoting Jeff Beck.
I wouldn't have known that.
I
didn't know any Jeff Beck.
He had the song Hi Ho Silver Lining.
Oh, I know that one, yeah.
Do you have any favorite memories of any particular tours, any interesting stories of things that have happened, or any characters that you might have met along the way?
Oh gosh, you know what? I can never remember this offhand, and then
you can make one up. I wouldn't know.
I'll think of some really great stories as soon as as soon as I put the phone down. Well, obviously the Paul McCartney one. That's one of the best, wasn't it? I like tours when we've got young kids with us, because they're so enthusiastic. It's lovely. You have 4 or 5 year olds on the tour. It's really quite sweet, and I bring along little Beatles dolls I've got. So I always enjoy tours with the younger ones. I've recently worked with a film crew on a documentary they're making, which is called Prefab, and it's about Colin Hanton, who was the drummer with the Quarrymen, and kind of his hard luck story. It's kind of quite funny in parts, but Colin is one of my greatest friends. I absolutely love him. And so because of this, we got into some really unusual places, and because the film crew were, they had passes to do all kinds of stuff, I got to go with them. We went to places I never even get to see on tours, backstage in the theatres and things, so that was really cool. I really enjoyed doing that.
And was Colin with you when the film crews were going around?
For most of it, yeah. For some parts, sometimes I was just I'm down as the locations manager, so sometimes I was just taking them to venues to do the filming, and other times Colin would be there doing interviews. So I can arrange that on tours. I can get arranged for a few members of the Quarrymen to come and meet you. Go on, give us another question anyway.
All right.
I'm taking over.
You really are, I feel. This is your show. I'm just a guest.
Come on, I'll sit back now and let you ask the questions.
All right. So, what's your favorite weird piece of Beatles trivia that you like to throw out during tours that make people just kind of scratch their heads like, what? Didn't know that.
I can't think of one of those off the top of my head. Ask me another, I'll think about that one.
All right. What is your favorite Beatles song? Basic question, but everyone always has a different answer.
Yeah, and I'll give you a different answer every day of the week, to be honest with you.
You can give a top 5, because it's always hard for people to choose.
Okay. There's a couple of love songs I really like, and one each for Lennon, McCartney and Harrison, really, I suppose. And so for John Lennon, I love the song If I Fell. And then for Paul McCartney, I love For No One. Paul didn't often write songs that when he was kind of a bit reticent about things, do you know what I mean? All Paul's songs tended to be I love her everywhere, if she's beside me I know I'll never care, you know what I mean? They're all like I'm totally in love and blindly in love with you. But For No One, there's that little bit of vulnerability in it, which I love. And then If I Fell is John kind of being vulnerable all the time, so I love those two. Also Something for George, absolutely. And then I've taken to singing this one in the car with my grandchildren, and that's All Together Now. So just because it reminds me of singing with grandkids, All Together Now is one.
If I Fell was my dad's favorite Beatles song.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Oh, well, he had very good taste then.
Yeah. Well,
it's beautiful.
I feel like I inherited, the love of the Beatles from my family.
Yeah.
Even though I'm the only musician, but...
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, that's lovely.
everyone loves the Beatles.
Yeah, and it takes you back to happy places, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You know, people say it's an overused phrase, but they say that the Beatles are the soundtrack of your life, and for many people that's true.
It is. It is very, very true. Like, there are certain Beatles songs that I listen to, and they take me just to a distinct point in time. Like, weird one, Sgt. Pepper and With Little Help from My Friends were the two songs that got me into the Beatles. Because I was listening.
Oh, really?
I was listening to my mom's CD of the Blue Album on my little CD player, and seeing the little number, like saying what track it was, jump from I think it was 3 to 4, without actually hearing a change in the song.
Oh, wow.
It's like, wait, what? These are two different songs? Oh,
well,
these
nice,
guys are good.
They're seamless, aren't they? But another lovely memory, you've talked about your dad. My dad, I always remember when we were young singing, kind of duetting to She's Leaving Home. So that's another song that's got lovely memories for me. Now my dad's still around with us. I'm sure he'd sing it again with me if he really wanted him to. But, you know, that was just lovely as a little girl singing She's Leaving Home. But I could go on forever. I could tell you a different song and a different memory, and they're all my favourites. It's hard to choose, for sure.
I'm going to ask you the kind of flip side to that question. Do you have a least favourite Beatles song?
I do.
Finally, someone with an opinion. Everyone who comes on this show kind of waffles a bit, like, they're all good.
No, I don't think they are all perfect. And the song that jumps out to me, and that people are going to vilify, see, I can't talk now for this, but the song that I tend to skip is I Want You. You know, I want you so bad. It's just a bit repetitive and goes on and on and on and things. So I'm not crazy on I Want You.
It's like 7 minutes long, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's 7 minutes of dirge. Yeah. I'm sorry, boys. Yeah, so
it's just, how many times can you play the same down, no, 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 no.
Yeah, I'm glad you agree with me.
I mean, I like the song, but I can only listen to about like the first 3 minutes of it before it feels like I have to actively listen to a song.
Yeah, it's true. But there's another one that I keep thinking of, other ones that I really, really love. And this is an instrumental. I absolutely love Flying. I adore it. I love Magical Mystery Tour.
It's I think the most underrated Beatles. I was gonna say album, but technically EP, double EP.
EP in the UK, yeah. In the States, it was an album, wasn't it? Because they added Penny Lane and Strawberry Field to it, which were never on ours.
Yeah, money grabbing bastards at Capitol.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
But yeah, I even really enjoyed the film, even though I saw it when it first appeared on television in black and white, which didn't make sense, but I still loved it. And the songs on that, I think there's an excellent song from every Beatle.
The weird thing is, that movie, my favorite part of it actually has nothing to do with the Beatles. It's when the Bonzo Dog Doodah Band show up and they start playing Death Cab for Cutie.
Yeah, they're cool. Nealon is sadly no longer with us.
Yeah. The Bonzos are criminally underrated.
Yeah.
Especially here in Canada, where only weirdos like me know about them.
Only cool people like you mean?
Only cool people, yeah. I need a self-esteem boost every now and again.
There you go.
Talking about John Montana again. Last episode I recorded, before I started, I did my usual like self-deprecating bit. And he's like, no, promote, or like, don't be like that. Like, think good of yourself or something like that. And so I immediately went into like, welcome back to Fans on the Run, the best Beatles podcast that has ever been made. Which was... No. Oh, no. If you want to hear a good one, go listen to Talk More Talk with Kid O'Toole and the others.
Stop telling. You don't want to listen to... Stop it. Yours is. I haven't listened, so I don't know. So I'll listen to this and then I'll tell you it's the best.
Yeah.
But you're just being... You know, you Canadians are slightly more like us British when you don't want to, you don't want to big yourselves up, and we're the same. Yeah. You know, you said something at the beginning like, arguably the best tour guides or something like that, which I'd like, oh no, I'm not. But yeah, when people say Beatles expert, I'm like, I'm not an expert, I just like them. It's a very British thing, so it's the British in you coming out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Canada's like half British, though.
Yeah.
We still have
I'm sure you've got some British blood.
Oh, we do. You know, the Queen's still on our money.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I mean, you have been recognized.
Your pocket is a portrait of the Queen. Sorry. Shall I say that again?
No, I got it.
Yeah, so that's the whole thing. That's where it comes from.
I mean, you have been recognized by the Institute of Tourist Guiding, TripAdvisor, and Ethan Alexanian. So,
oh, well.
You know, you are the best Beatles tour guide.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, the third recognition has really boosted me, so thank you very much.
Just take it and run with it.
Right, I will. Thank you. So this is a mutual appreciation society today.
We're just picking each other up.
We need it this time, don't we?
Oh, we do.
Come on, give us another question. I can't remember the last one that I said I'd come back to you. I can't remember what the question was now.
It was, do you know of any, or do you have any weird pieces of Beatles trivia that you like to throw out?
It's just silly things, really. You know, about which Beatles' middle name is Paul, and the answer's Paul. You know, daft things like that. I can't think of any right now. There's been a bit of controversy at the moment. If you want me to get deep on things about Penny Lane, do you want me to talk about that? There's a bit of a fact linked to Penny Lane.
I've seen you post about it on Facebook, and I know you're quite passionate about it. So, go right ahead.
Well, okay, so at the moment, there's a lot of talk about racism and Black Lives Matter, which I'm absolutely right behind. But there's this outcry about trying to change the name of Penny Lane, of iconic Penny Lane, because somebody once said in 2006 it was named after a slave trader. Now, if that was the case, then yes, maybe something should be done about it. But I did a lot of research, a lot of other people have, not to disprove the fact, but to prove the fact that it was named after this guy, so that I could talk about it with confidence and, bring the slave trade into the Beatles story, and the horrors of it all. But the more we dug into it, the more we realised it can't be named after him because the dates don't tally. It was a little country lane when he was in the city centre, and there's absolutely no evidence at all to suggest that Penny Lane, which is a name all around the UK, probably if you look in America as well, it could have been about toll bridges, or it was a penny on the bus to get to town. There's many reasons for it, but Penny Lane is not written about a slave trader. And because of the Black Lives Matter movement at the moment, people are trying to jump on this and use it, and it's not true. If it was true, we'd accept that and we'd deal with it, and we'd bring the story of the slave trade into our tours. But it isn't true. This is what annoys me. It just isn't true, and so that's a bit of not necessarily trivia, but it's something that we're trying to get across at the moment.
I have seen that being spread around.
Yeah,
no, it's all right.
I want it to be everybody's job who's listening to this, and your job, to put that story straight, because the more the rumours go on and on, the more people are going to deface the sign and things when it's not true. It really isn't true. And Paul McCartney's written his autograph on it too. When
this goes up, even after the interview, I'll share all the links to. Yeah. I saw some of the research and it was pretty thorough.
Yeah, it's very thorough, and the research was to try and prove it, not to disprove it. Yeah. So come on, ask me a fun question now. I got a bit deep then.
As someone from Liverpool, do you ever get sick of the Beatles?
Do you know what? I'm not going to lie. I'm going to say when it's Beatle Week in Liverpool, when we've got tens of thousands of people here, I've done 15 tours in one weekend, and every one of them I've listened to Penny Lane and Strawberry Field maybe 3 times a day. I might get home and play something else. So Yeah, a little bit. It doesn't take me long to get back up to listening to them again, though.
What kind of things do you listen to when you get sick of the Beatles?
I'm a huge fan of Kate Bush from the 1980s. I mean, that was my era, the 70s and 80s. And, I was just knocked out by the song Wuthering Heights when I was about 16. I'm obsessed with anything Bronte, and the song Wuthering Heights, the book Wuthering Heights, the Bronte sisters. So I'm really into Kate Bush. But other than that, I like bands like Coldplay and Muse. I'm not really that well up on anything completely modern. I like electro swing for some reason. I got into 1940s music, but I like the modern twist on the electro versions. So
I know what you're talking about, and I actually really like it too.
Yeah, like Caro Emerald, that kind of thing. Do you know her?
No.
Yeah, well, I've listened to a lady called Caro Emerald, and she's pretty cool. Yeah, I like to listen to instrumentals a lot when I'm reading, so I don't have to sing the words because I can't read and sing at the same time. So I listen to a lot of instrumentals.
Now, I saw something on your website that made me very curious. I had mentioned it. You had helped Cirque du Soleil in some research for the Love Show.
That's right, yeah. A bit more than helped, really. The whole hierarchy.
You were behind the Love Show. You were behind the Love Show.
I wrote the whole Love Show. I taught them all how to do the acrobatics and everything. No, so the real story is Guy de Laliberty from Cirque du Soleil, all the top bods, they all came to Liverpool and spent a day with me on a minibus going around all the sites. So when you see the show, they talk about Eleanor Rigby, they talk about the tragic death of Julia, they talk about Liverpool in the war at the beginning, and all of these things I showed them and illustrated where they might have taken place. To get behind the story of Cirque du Soleil, of the Beatles and Cirque du Soleil. So later, the writer, whose name is Dominic Champagne, he came back again. So I spent a few days with them. But Dominic said it was the first time there was about 11 or 12 of them. The second time, it was just 3. But Dominic said to me, there might be a 4th person, is that okay? I said, yeah, of course, we've got plenty of room, so don't worry. And when they turned up, there were just 3 of them. And so I said, oh, your 4th friend couldn't make it? And he said, oh, no, he couldn't. I didn't want to tell you this, Jack, but it was George Martin.
What?
Exactly.
Like George Martin.
George Martin, who didn't come. He didn't turn up, so never mind. But the fact that he might have done was pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah, that's good, isn't it?
Okay, I'll have to say, every time I hear you say, like, they do, don't they? Or something like that, I just think of that scene in Yellow Submarine where it's like John, George, and Ringo talking. It's like, they do, don't they, though?
Don't they though?
Yeah.
That became a bit of a phrase of a joke about Scousers, really. There was a telly series called Harry Enfield, and
I am familiar with him.
Guy. Yeah, and that was one of the phrases that one of the McGann brothers actually used to always say, "Did you know? Don't they know?" Yeah. It's just a regular phrase here in Liverpool. The phrase people ask us to say is quite funny, and so they ask us to say the meal, the kind of Chinese spicy meal, because we say our letters K is quite gutturally, or C's, and so the one they ask us to say just for a joke is chicken teriyaki. And so yeah, that's say chicken teriyaki. Okay, chicken teriyaki. You know what I'm saying? Chicken teriyaki.
I do though, don't I?
You do though, don't you though?
I'm getting such a kick out of this for some reason.
Where do we go from there?
Okay, you said you'd say your favorite Beatles album is Sgt. Pepper.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a least favorite Beatles album? The one that sits on your shelf kind of like dusty, like you don't go for?
I don't really. I think I think there are times when you think, oh, it's an early Beatles day, and you play the early stuff, you play the rock and roll stuff, and then you're a bit more introspective, and you think, oh, I need to cool down. I need a bit of White Album or a bit of Let It Be. I'd say the later ones, the likes of the White Album, Let It Be, are the ones I'd play least, and the early albums up to Magical Mystery Tour are the ones, if I had to choose, I prefer. So Let It Be, White Album, Abbey Road. Maybe not the whole albums as much, but certainly the songs.
See, while Let It Be is my least favorite, I don't necessarily find myself going for the White Album very often.
Yeah,
I feel like I'd need to be in the headspace that the Beatles were in, on like a 6-day heroin binge, which so far in my life I have not been on. Don't do drugs, kids. Don't do drugs, kids.
Definitely don't.
Yeah. Unless you want to.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that, and it's individual songs I listen to from those, but there are people who they would be their absolute go-to albums, so I think as long as we love them, it doesn't really matter, does it?
Because that's the thing with the Beatles, it's like 6 bands put together.
Yeah, I love kind of a lot of the old cover versions they did of older songs, like Bésame Mucho, I can't talk, Bésame Mucho.
Yes.
And Anna, The Sheikh of Araby. I love listening to all of those.
Yeah. Some of the stuff that was like on the Decca tapes or whatever they were.
Yeah, I love that stuff because they're having so much fun with them. It's not like they're in a studio and they're tied down to doing, it's just like they're free and they're enjoying it. I love those.
The Beatles album that I think gives me the most joy listening to is actually that old bootleg of them at the Star Club in Germany.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, I love that one.
Because it's just so raw and they're just going for it.
Yeah.
There's a quote, I think, from John or George that said, the best things we ever did weren't recorded on tape.
Yeah, that's probably right. I'll tell you where I love listening to that one, because I don't think I have a copy of it, actually. I'm not one for vinyl and saving all my CDs. I'm a download girl, which I know goes against the grain for so many people. But I love having everything on an iPod and in my hands, and everywhere I go I can take it. But I love to play that song in the Jacaranda Club. So the Jacaranda was owned by Alan Williams, the Beatles' first manager.
Ah, yes, Alan Williams.
And so upstairs in the Jack, they've got these little booths with proper turntables, and you just pick yourself a record from the racks, and you play it while you sat drinking. It's fantastic. And that's where I always play that one. It always reminds me of the Jack.
Of course Alan Williams would have a copy of that.
Yeah. I don't know whether it was Alan's original copy, but it's in there. Ask me about Alan Williams.
Oh, I was just
really well.
I was going to. It seems that, from what I've heard, everyone in Liverpool has an Alan Williams story.
Yeah.
What's yours?
Yeah, we do. My story of Alan Williams is that I absolutely loved the man. He was absolutely wonderful. He was a comedian. He was a failed entrepreneur so many times. He was funny. He loved to drink. He was really nice to me and really caring to me.
You didn't happen to meet him at the Grapes, did you?
I met him at the Grapes. I met him at the Jacaranda. The last time I spent quality time with him was at Frida Kelly's birthday party, where I was kind of in charge of him not drinking too much champagne.
Oh, Jesus.
So Alan Williams was a big part of my life, and I'll tell you that the reason I remembered him was we were talking about the Jacaranda. I was in the Jacaranda with a tour group, and I think it was New Year's Eve. I can't remember the exact date now, but pretty sure it was New Year's Eve, and the news started coming through. People were texting me saying, have you heard the news? So I was in the Jacaranda when I heard that Alan had passed away. And so that was a really poignant moment. I told the bar staff, and they put a sign up for him. They had like a pinboard behind, and the news was broken to me in the Jacaranda, and everybody found out there in the Jack. It was quite emotional, that, really, and I totally loved the man. I've got a brilliant story about him in the Jacaranda if you want to hear it.
Oh, I want to hear it.
Okay, now you swore before. I wasn't sure. I wouldn't normally swear.
Go right ahead.
On things. So if you're going to let me swear, and I'm just paraphrasing somebody else, okay? Right, so I was with this band called the Elliots, and their drummer was called Billy. And we were all having a drink, and Alan Williams was with us in the Jacaranda. And he used to prop up the bar in the Jack, and everybody would buy him drinks. And his drink was a glass of red wine with 3 ice cubes, always. And so we're chatting away, and he says to Billy, he says, "So you must be the drummer in the band." And Billy says, "Yeah, how did you know?" He says, "'Cause you're the fucking ugliest." Oh, so that's, do you know what? He was rude to people in a funny way, but never rude to me. He was always a gentleman to me, and he played up to the crowd. That's what people wanted him to do. They wanted to be able to go back and say Alan Williams was really, really rude to me. But he played to the crowd, he really did, and he was a very, very lovely, genuine man. I'm not going to say his stories were all genuine, because they probably weren't. But the man himself, I absolutely loved him. Really did.
I really wish I had gotten the chance to meet him at some point.
He would have given you some grief, I think.
Oh, that I would have been happy with that. Again, it's the story.
Yeah. Oh, good old Alan.
Yeah. Hopefully I didn't make you emotional there, having to tell.
No, I'm smiling away thinking about him, not emotional at all. I'm just thinking of lovely memories of Alan, because I just think he was great.
I've seen some really good clips of him. Like, in the later years, it seemed like Alan, would, again, I'm swearing, kind of shit on the Beatles, but he also he stood up for them at any point he could. There was, when that Albert Goldman book came out in like 1988, that trash John Lennon, he went on...
I've never read it. Yeah.
Oh, neither have I. But he went on TV and he was kind of debating with Albert Goldman, saying that, like, you've basically just killed John Lennon again.
Yeah.
Like, characters.
Good on him. Yeah, he loved those boys. He really, really did. And I would say he loved John the most. When I've seen him, when people have asked him, tell us what you think of what was John Lennon, and he says that John Lennon was just a lovely soul. I think there are different opinions of John Lennon. I think if you knew him, if you'd met him, and you didn't kind of pass his test, I suppose, a little bit like Alan was having a laugh with Billy, saying something mean to see if Billy would either get a huff and wander off or stay laughing with him. I think John kind of did that kind of thing in the early days as well. You either got John Lennon or you didn't, and if you didn't, you were kind of an outsider. But yeah, Alan Williams absolutely adored John Lennon. He really did.
He seems like just such a good guy.
Who, John or Alan?
Alan.
Yeah, you know what? He wasn't a good guy. He was a rogue, but he was a lovable rogue. I think he'd hate to be called a good guy. He was just a lovely guy, but not necessarily a good one.
Maybe not the best phrasing of the statement, but
yeah.
He seems like the kind of person I would have liked to have had a pint with.
Oh, absolutely. You would have enjoyed it. You would have had to buy all of his drinks as well, mind you.
Of course. Because why would you pay for your own drinks if you're Alan Williams?
Yeah. When you hear them say, Alan Williams just wanted you to buy him drinks. Well, why wouldn't you want to buy him drinks? Well, half the time he was barred from the pubs anyway, so he couldn't go in some of them because he had too much. And if you'd sneak up to the bar and say, "Can I have a glass of red wine, please?" they'd say, "No, that's for Alan Williams." They'd know.
And wait, lovely. People were buying him drinks at the Jacaranda, which... Oh, wait, no, not the Jack... Was it the... Yeah, it was the
Grapes. Well, it was the Jacaranda, the last story I told you about, but he was in the Grapes quite a bit as well.
Yeah. I was going to say, I thought he owned the Jacaranda.
He did. But this was later on. This was more recently. He only owned the Jacaranda in the 1950s and early 60s.
Oh, good.
This is recent. I'm talking about.
Yeah. I was thinking, like, why would he buy his own drinks if he owns the place?
Well, when he ran the Jacaranda, it was only a coffee bar. It only served coffee and Coca-Cola and things. So it was a different kind of place.
All right. I think I've asked you, like, all of the good questions.
Well, if you think of anything else just off the cuff, I'm happy to reply. We were having a laugh.
It was a good episode, you know? I say that about every episode. Of course, sometimes I don't mean it, but this time I actually do mean it.
Oh, brilliant. I'm glad I could help.
Jackie, this is my favorite point in the show where I like to turn it over to the guest and let them... Do you have anything that you'd like to plug?
Oh, just my tours, I suppose. So I need you all to start coming back to Liverpool. The livelihood here has been decimated, obviously, by everything that's going on. And so as soon as people can travel again, please come back to Liverpool, take a tour. And if you want that to be my tour, you can go on to Beatleguide.com or just search my name, Jackie Spencer, and I should come up there somewhere. I've also done a little thing just recently. While we've been in lockdown, I've done little snippets of tours. And so I've got one of those kind of donation sites which you can buy me a cup of coffee, but you don't have to. You can go on that and you can see all of the little videos I've been doing. And there's some, that I've taken you around St. Peter's, I've taken you around Strawberry Fields, Penny Lane, and around the city centre. So I've done quite a few of those, and they're all on this little site, which is all the W's, and then it's ko-fi.com, and then / Jackie Spencer, and you can see them all on there.
And when it's safe to travel, it's like the people out there, you have no excuse not to go to Liverpool. It's not like the plane tickets are going to be expensive, because the airlines, I don't think, would be, you know.
I think there's going to be some bargains around. I hope so anyway.
Yeah.
And let me just say, if you've been to London, I'm not saying don't go to London, but if you've already been and you've already done London, look into flights into Manchester Airport, because it's only 30 miles from Liverpool and you don't have to mess around getting the train up from London and things then. So come into Manchester, or even better still, you can fly into Ireland. A lot of people love to go to Ireland, so you can fly into Dublin, have a little look around Dublin for a night or two, and then you can fly direct into Liverpool John Lennon Airport. So there's a few options of how to do it. And I'd fly into Liverpool Airport if you could. You can't do it transatlantic, but you can from Dublin.
I just realized I have one last question. Based on your experience with everyone in Liverpool, who's the most loved Beatle there and who is not the most loved Beatle? I feel like I know the answer, but I just want to hear it again.
All right, the most loved Beatle. I'm just going to tell you from my point of view, and my most loved Beatle is George, but I'm sure the others are split, but there is a Beatle that people are a bit miffed with in Liverpool.
Yes, the one who had the head cut off and that hedge.
Yeah. So Ringo is like he went a bit grumpy for a while, didn't he? And he said he didn't miss Liverpool at all, and all this not signing autographs and things. Yeah. And
before he was all peace and love.
Yeah.
He had that video, which basically, for all intents and purposes, reminded me of one of those. I don't know, Al-Qaeda videos.
Oh gosh,
yeah. Where he's just sitting there, this is a serious message to everybody watching my update. No more autographs.
I remember it well. I just think of him as, you've all got this grumpy old uncle, or you've got a grumpy granddad, and he just sits there and but you love him anyway. Yeah. That's how I think of Ringo.
Yeah, I had Richard Porter on not too long ago, and he said he was telling me some of the public opinion about Ringo.
I don't dislike him. I just think he needs to come back to Liverpool and have a few pints in the Grapes to kind of chill him out a bit.
Yeah, I think someone needs to pull that stick out of his ass.
I'm not going to say that live on here, but I just think.
See, that's why I'm here. I'll say the things. I'll say the things.
But Ringo, we still love you. Frida Kelly absolutely adores Ringo. She won't have a bad word said against him. So, he's got to be good. And Frida loves him.
Ringo is my favorite Beatle.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why not?
Mine is George.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I don't even know what's going on right now.
You overwhelmed?
Yeah, I woke up like an hour or two ago, so my brain's still kind of waking up.
Oh, it's early evening in Liverpool now.
It's 1 p.m. here right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you only just woke up?
I woke up at about 11, I think. Actually, no, I think I sent you emails at like 10. So
all right, okay.
That's not necessarily true. I just
it's
proved
still hardly the crack of dawn, is it?
Oh no. Oh no. I'm not one of those early bird catches the worm, whatever.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, no, me neither.
No. I sit up at like 1 a.m. thinking I should probably go to sleep now. And then I just don't.
Well, at the moment, I have no tours, and so, sometimes I'm up at 8 a.m. to go and meet a cruise ship and take them on an all-day tour. But at the moment, no. So, hey, never mind.
Jackie, thank you so much for coming on the show.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for inviting me, and maybe we'll do part 2 another time. I'm sure there's lots. I could have talked forever.
We should do part 2 when I come back to Liverpool. We do it live on
Absolutely,
on one of those buses.
From Penny Lane or Strawberry Field or something. Yeah.
Which was not named after the slave trader.
It was absolutely not.
Yeah. Which I think, even if it was, the city of Liverpool could just get around that by doing a big, like, rededication thing by naming the street after the song.
After the song, that would work as well, wouldn't it?
We're renaming Penny Lane to Penny Lane Lane.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah. All right, Jackie, thank you. To everyone out there listening, thanks for listening. You can go home now.
Fans on the Run is produced by Ethan Alexanian. Additional voiceovers by Richard Phillip. This has been a Showtown production.